Starfield Shattered Space explores what happens when humanity's thirst for knowledge goes too far. Hey guys, Dazra here. We've finally gotten a deep dive into Starfield's first DLC. The devs have been as mysterious about this as the House Veron, which the title centers around. So let's take a look at what you can expect come September the 30th. A mysterious power stirs in the city of Dazra on the House Veron's homeworld. Investigate a frightening cosmic threat, explore a new planet, and find unique weapons, spacesuits, and gear in this all-new adventure. Firstly though, there are quite a few free updates for the base game, including graphical changes, bug fixes, new features, content, and the Rev 8, a new land vehicle you can drive around. Shattered Space will be a completely self-contained adventure. From when you arrive on the Veron's home planet until you finish the DLC, you'll be on one handcrafted planet. There won't be flying back and forth between locations like in the extremely annoying Freestar Rangers questline. You'll be free to leave at any time, but the story is centered on the same planet. So yes, you'll be exploring like you did in, say, Skyrim. Except now you'll have a Rav 8 to get around instead of a horse. You'll learn more about this Isolus faction who were quite mysterious in the base game to say the least. However, when learning more about them, you'll also find why curiosity doesn't always pay off. It's mentioned that the base game is about humanity's search for knowledge. Well, Shattered Space is what happens when it goes too far. It seems to have backfired horribly for the Veron. There will be a lot more elements of survival action horror here. Take a look at this sequence. Rewinding back, we see a space station, with seemingly everyone on board dead. This may be how you discover the location of Veron Kai, the Veron homeworld, and get tangled in the storyline. Before you land on the planet, a secret experiment involving grav drive technology went horribly wrong. This resulted in a tear in the fabric of space-time. This has swallowed a lot of the capital city of Dazra, which explains all the artwork and footage we've been teased over the year. You arrive 2 weeks after the event. Now, how you arrive still remains to be seen. If you complete Andrea's loyalty mission, you'll learn that the agents of House Veron get sent out not knowing their planet's coordinates, so they can never return on their own. How exactly we find their homeworld is still a mystery, but I'm gonna go with my space station theory. We're told
the Great Serpent tells us there is nothing to fear.
At that moment, the screen quickly flashes. If we pause, we see this. A temple of some kind with statues. I'll leave it up to you to speculate what this means. Regardless, we found our way to the home planet. I doubt Veron will be welcoming to begin with, as they've spent so much time keeping themselves isolated and secret. Maybe desperation calls for it, as we can see a massive crater in their city, as well as emergency aid tables set up. Also, Veron Lando Carizian says,
"Supplies are limited. There is so much work to be done."
We also hear a lady say,
"One of the promised of House Veron."
So we can assume there are some prophecies involved too that give you some immunity from harm. It seems the House Veron's government and seat of power is trapped in a field of energy, and the leader of the Veron people is missing as well, so no doubt we'll be tasked to help. However, it wouldn't be a Bethesda game without factions. With the House Veron's leader missing, all the minor factions are now vying for power. That's most likely where we come in, giving a little nudge in the directions we see fit in order to influence what factions succeed, fail, or both. So there's seemingly choices in how the DLC story shapes up, more on that soon, probably giving us multiple sets of consequences and endings. So there will seemingly be choices in how the DLC story shapes out, probably giving us multiple sets of consequences and endings. I'd imagine you have a chance to even help the Zealots if you want to lean towards more of an evil direction. In one part of the video, we hear someone say, "All must serve," and then "set me free."
All must serve. Set me free. All must serve. Set me free. All must serve. Set me free. All must serve. Save me.
Maybe this is hinting at another major choice we'll have to make. No doubt the conversational choices will be deep, but perhaps the Serpent's Embrace perk comes into play since you'll be the same religion if you choose it. Also, how will Andrea be treated if she's with you during the story? Will she still hold anger towards the Zealots? So speaking of the Zealots, here we have some combat. Unsurprisingly, there'll be a lot of technologically advanced Veron weapons in the DLC. The first weapon we see though is the Trick Shot, a unique variant of the Mag Shot. We later switch to the Veron Inflictor, which is a rifle with high damage and recoil, dealing ballistic and energy-based damage. Both of these can be found in the base game. So Bethesda are holding their cards close to their chest when it comes to surprises, but don't worry, a little later on I'll show you a new one. So there will be at least one major city on Veron Kai called Dazra in the DLC. From what we can see, it'll be at least equal to the size of the cities in the base game, if not much larger. In terms of the environment, this is a very alien world even by Starfield standards. There are bubbles of gravity anomalies littered about. Yes, that means you can float within them if you choose. In the footage we see it's used to reach a building floating up high. Of course, something mysterious happens once you open the door. Here we see House Veron's home planet Veron Kai, a very visually distinct place, and I can't for the life of me find it in the base game, so it must be something that only appears once the DLC unlocks it for you and you do the first part of the mission to find the planet. It has the same gravity of Earth with abundant flora and fauna. We can see Dazra City north of the planet. The planet is very hostile, but the people believe they were led here by the Great Serpent, so they await its return no matter what. Most have retreated to the capital, so there will be abandoned buildings that have since been taken over by Zealots, bases, and the Crimson Fleet. Though, how did they find this place when we couldn't? So, as you may have suspected, the veil between worlds is lifting after the experiment, and we're seeing creatures and beings coming through from the other side. One of the scariest of which is the Vortex Horror. When you disturb the barrier between their world and ours, they will attack. This reminds me of Prey, wherein you think you're safe but will be randomly ambushed and attacked. You'll need to be on your toes in these horror sections of the game. The devs mentioned that in the base game, there was a high priority on ranged combat. You can engage from very far away. However, with Shattered Space, they've tried to put you in situations where the distance is closed. They're shattering the space between your enemies. Don't click off. They do this by increasing the chaos and increasing the aggression in different types of enemies. We saw the ambush predators before, but we also see enemies coming from underground and specialized armored melee zealots. Here we see what looks to be a new grenade type. Perhaps it's an EMP as it's great against robotic enemies. Next we see a zealot decked out in armor and twin Veron blades. It looks like there's a duel going on as we have one as well. Then we see a player taking on some new enemies and their queen. Then we switch to a new weapon, a modified Veron Starstorm. It feels like an energy-based minigun of sorts. It deals both ballistic and energy-based damage and uses heavy fuses. I can see this burning through expensive ammo very quickly. The player then finishes with that new grenade. So as you'll explore, you'll discover what has happened, you'll get tangled in the political feud between the minor houses, and ultimately decide the fate of House Veron, confirmed by the devs. A fate that could affect the rest of the settled systems. So there will be choices here that matter. I just hope when they say the rest of the settled systems, it's something we can visually see take place. After mentioning this fact, a sound clip plays of a man saying,
We can restore the intended order of things.
which leads me to believe that something major will indeed happen. So that's everything we know. In terms of what the DLC is adding to the base game, it's not entirely clear. We know that we're getting impactful choices that can shape the universe, and we know we're getting unique weapons, spacesuits, and gear, but what about decorations? What about spaceships and spaceship parts? I can't imagine they will leave it out, as visiting the Veron home planet is the perfect opportunity to grant us advanced Veron warships, or really advanced looking decorations. I'm actually salivating thinking about the potential. What do you think though? Excited for Shattered Space? let me know below. Thanks so much for watching, and for everything RPG, you're in the right place. Ciao friends.